Hey there! Sometimes a single event can tell you everything about a much bigger story. Today, we're going to look at one particular rocket launch that perfectly captures this huge rivalry that's unfolding, literally right above our heads. Okay, so let's get right into this, because this isn't just another rocket lighting up the Florida sky. This is about a massive, high-stakes competition between two of the world's biggest tech titans. It's a battle for the future of the internet, and it's being fought in low Earth orbit.
For most of history, the space race was a thing between countries, right? The US versus the Soviet Union. Well, that's not the game anymore. Today, a totally new race is on, and the players are giant corporations. We're talking about a commercial scramble to build enormous infrastructure in space, and it is changing everything.
And check out this quote from Mike Wall over at space.com. It really puts things in perspective. More than 70% of SpaceX's launches this year are all for one thing: building out their Starlink internet network. They are just relentlessly focused on this single massive project.
All right, so let's zero in on the event that brought all of this into the spotlight. The one mission that marks a huge milestone and, honestly, reveals the super complicated relationship between these two rivals.
So here's the mission snapshot. On August 11th, a SpaceX Falcon 9 lifts off from Cape Canaveral. But here's the wild part. The payload wasn't for SpaceX. Nope, it was carrying 24 satellites for its biggest competitor, Amazon's Project Kuiper. And as if that wasn't enough, this was SpaceX's 100th flight of the year.
But getting this thing off the ground was not a straight line. It's a great reminder that spaceflight is just plain hard. They had to scrub the launch twice. First on Saturday because of bad weather at the Cape, and then again on Sunday because the weather was bad out in the ocean where they needed to land the booster. It took till Monday for everything to finally line up.
And that brings us to that number, 100 launches. That is the real headline here. It represents a speed, a cadence that was science fiction just a few years ago. Just think about that, 100 missions. And they hit that milestone on August 11th. We're just a little over halfway through the year. It is just a staggering display of speed and efficiency. And they're not slowing down. In fact, it's the opposite. Look at this trend. In 2024, they hit a record 138 launches. This year, they're on pace to absolutely demolish that record, maybe even getting to 163. They just keep accelerating.
Now, the workhorse doing all this heavy lifting is without a doubt the Falcon 9. It's responsible for 97 of those 100 flights. But, and this is so important, those other 3 launches, those were test flights of Starship, their next-generation rocket. So they're maintaining this insane pace while also building the rocket of the future. It's incredible.
And all of this brings us right back to the rivalry. Why is SpaceX launching so fast? And why on earth is their main competitor, Amazon, paying them to do it? Well, it all comes down to this massive battle of the mega constellations. So let's put these two head to head. On one side, you have SpaceX's Starlink. It's already up and running, a fully operational service with thousands of satellites in orbit. Then you have Amazon's Kuiper. It's in the very early stages of its build-out, but with a huge goal, to get more than 3,200 satellites up there. And if you want to understand Starlink's lead, just look at this number. Over 8,100 active Starlink satellites are orbiting Earth as we speak. That is a massive head start. And now for the other side of the coin. After this launch, Amazon's Project Kuiper has a total of 102 satellites in orbit. I mean, the numbers tell the whole story, don't they? You can see the huge mountain they have to climb and why they're in such a hurry. But here's where it gets really interesting. What does this one single launch actually tell us? Well, if you look a little closer, it reveals some absolutely fascinating strategic moves from both companies. We all know SpaceX's superpower, right? It's reusable rockets. They land them, they fly them again, and it's what allows them to launch so often. One of their boosters has already flown 29 times. It's the secret sauce. So that leads to a pretty obvious question. If reuse is king, why was this 100th mission, the one carrying their competitor satellites, no less, on a brand new straight-from-the-factory booster? That's actually a really rare thing for SpaceX now. This is called a debut flight. And the answer isn't a problem, it's actually a flex.
It shows that even while they're reusing their fleet like crazy, their factories are churning out so much new hardware that they can just casually introduce a new one into the mix. It's a sign of just how massive their production scale is.
And what about Amazon's strategy? Well, this shows they are playing it smart. They are not putting all their eggs in one basket. To get their 3,200 satellites into orbit, they've booked rides on a whole bunch of different rockets: SpaceX's Falcon 9, ULA's rockets, Europe's Ariane 6, and even Blue Origin's New Glenn, which hasn't even flown yet. It's a really pragmatic move to make sure they get their constellation built, even if it means writing a check to your biggest rival.
So that's where we are. You've got one company with a huge head start, launching at a rate that's hard to even comprehend. And you've got another global giant, just starting to climb, using every rocket it can find to get into the race. With thousands more satellites coming from both of them, the real question is, who's going to win the race for our skies?